America's best-selling vehicles now cost $80,000, and nobody's buying them. Dealer lots are full of brand new F-150s and Silverados that have been sitting for months, and the contractors and farmers who used to line up for new trucks are now buying used instead and paying cash for models from 2018. Why did the people who actually need trucks walk away from the new market entirely? The price is where the whole story starts, because in 2018, a loaded Ford F-150 Lariat cost about $48,000, and today, that same trim level with the same basic truck and the same factory and the same workers costs $68,000, which is $20,000 more for what amounts to a bigger touchscreen and a heated steering wheel, and some software updates nobody asked for. The frame is identical to the 2018 model. The aluminum bed is identical, and the engine block was actually downgraded from cast iron to aluminum, while Ford charged $20,000 more and called it an upgrade. And this pattern repeats across every single manufacturer in the industry. Multiply this across every manufacturer and every model, where the Ram 1500 Limited now costs $88,000, and the Chevrolet Silverado High Country sits at $79,000, and the GMC Sierra Denali Ultimate reaches $92,000. And these are pickup trucks that were never supposed to cost what a luxury sedan costs, but are now priced higher than a BMW 5 Series or a Mercedes E-Class. According to Cox Automotive data, the average new truck transaction in America right now sits at $58,000, with the average monthly payment crossing $1,080 for 72 months. And some banks are now pushing 84-month loans, which means 6 and 7 years of payments on a vehicle that will be scrapped by month 48 if the engine fails the way mechanics are seeing them fail. You're not buying a truck anymore, but financing a depreciating asset at 7% interest where the value drops faster than a house appreciates and faster than a phone becomes obsolete. And the depreciation curve is so steep that by the time you make your 12th payment, the truck is worth $24,000 less than what you paid for it. The math doesn't work anymore, and the people who actually use trucks for a living figured that out years before everyone else did. The contractor who loads lumber on Mondays and tows a trailer on weekends isn't walking into dealerships anymore because he found a 2018 Toyota Tundra with 200,000 miles and paid $22,000 cash. And he's done with the new truck game because he saw what was coming while everyone else was still signing 84-month loans and telling themselves the payment was affordable. He ran the numbers and realized that a used truck that's already taken its depreciation hit and has a proven track record of reliability makes infinitely more financial sense than a new truck with an unproven engine and a price tag that guarantees he'll be upside down before the first year is over. And when you're running a business where the truck is a tool and not a status symbol, those numbers matter more than having the latest touchscreen. The $80,000 trucks sitting on dealer lots were built for a different buyer entirely. For the weekend warriors who wanted the image of being a truck guy, and the guys who use the bed twice a year to haul mulch from Home Depot and maybe throw their mountain bikes in the back for a trip to the trailhead. And the industry designed these trucks specifically for them with luxury interiors and premium sound systems and massage seats and charged luxury car prices because they assumed those buyers would keep paying anything to maintain the image. They were right for about 4 years, from 2020 through 2023, where Americans absorbed every price hike without fighting back, and dealers marked trucks up $10,000 over MSRP, and buyers lined up to pay it because supply was limited, and everyone had stimulus money burning holes in their pockets. But math always wins eventually, because wages didn't double, and interest rates went from 3% to 7%, and gas prices went up, and insurance costs climbed, and the calculator in people's heads finally caught up to the calculator on the window sticker. A new F-150 bought today loses 30% of its value in the first 12 months, which is $24,000 gone, while the buyer is still on payment number 12 out of 72. And by year 3, that $80,000 truck is worth $42,000 on a good day, while the loan balance still sits at $65,000, because most of those early payments went to interest and barely touched the principal. That's called being upside down, where the industry calls it negative equity. But the reality is that the buyer is trapped because the moment they want out, they have to write a check for $23,000 just to escape their own driveway. And that's before selling the truck, and before buying something else, and before dealing with the fact that the engine might be ticking ominously every time it cold starts. Imagine financing a truck for $1,080 a month for 3 years straight, where you've made 36 payments totaling nearly $39,000, and then discovering your truck is worth $42,000 while you still owe $65,000, which means you paid almost $40,000 and your equity position is negative $23,000. You didn't buy an asset. You bought a financial trap that gets worse every single month. The dealership that sold you the truck knew this would happen, and the bank that approved the 84-month loan knew this would happen, and the manufacturer that built the truck and set the price knew this would happen, and they all did it anyway, because the commission on the sale and the interest on the loan and the profit margin on the truck were all collected up front, while you're the one holding the bag 3 years later when the math reveals itself. The engines in modern trucks are failing at rates mechanics haven't seen in decades, and this isn't about normal wear or bad maintenance, but about fundamental design problems and cost-cutting that every major manufacturer knew about before the trucks ever left the factory. The Ford 3.5-litre EcoBoost engine has cam phasers that fail catastrophically, where the truck starts rattling on cold starts and sounds like a coffee can full of bolts. And Ford issued service bulletins and blamed the oil and blamed the customers, while the real cause was bad design and worse manufacturing. By 80,000 miles, owners are looking at a $4,000 repair bill minimum, and that's if they can even find a dealer willing to do the work. The GM 6.2-litre L87 engine that sits in Silverados and Sierras and Escalades has been recalled on nearly 600,000 vehicles where the lifters fail, and the crankshaft destroys itself, and the connecting rod bearings disintegrate before the warranty even ends, and General Motors' official fix was to tell owners to use thicker oil. That's the solution they came up with for a $60,000 truck, thicker oil. And NHTSA is now investigating whether even that fix is failing. The Stellantis Hurricane Straight 6 replaced the legendary Hemi 5.8, and it's brand new with no long-term reliability data, which means early owners are reporting oil leaks and powertrain complaints are piling up on forums while nobody knows if these engines will make it to 100,000 miles because nobody has run them long enough yet. The buyers paid $80,000 to be beta testers for an unproven engine. The Toyota Tundra twin-turbo Phi 6 was supposed to be different because Toyota built its entire reputation on bulletproof reliability, but their new engine is failing at low mileage from engine block contamination during the casting process, where Toyota recalled over 100,000 of them, and owners who already received replacement engines are now reporting the same symptoms and the same failures all over again. Every major manufacturer is selling trucks with engines they know will fail and charging more than ever before, and then telling customers it's their fault when the engine grenades itself at 60,000 miles. And at dealer lots across the country are sitting on more than 115 days of unsold truck inventory, when normal supply is 60 days. And some lots have trucks that have been sitting for over 200 days, collecting dust and depreciating while taking up valuable lot space that could be used for vehicles people actually want to buy. Every single day, a truck doesn't sell. The dealer pays interest on floor plan financing, which is the loan the dealer took out to buy the inventory from the manufacturer in the first place. And that interest compounds daily, while the truck sits there losing value and costing the dealer real money with no buyer in sight. They're bleeding cash on inventory they can't move, so they started cutting deals where discounts that didn't exist 2 years ago, when dealers were marking trucks up over MSRP, are now $12,000 off MSRP and $15,000 off MSRP, and one dealer in the Midwest was offering $22,000 off a GMC Sierra HD just to make it disappear from the lot. And these are the same dealers who 2 years ago wouldn't even take your phone call unless you were willing to pay thousands over sticker and sign the same day. The power dynamic has completely flipped, where salesmen who used to act like they were doing you a favor by letting you look at their trucks are now calling previous customers and offering deals they never would have considered 24 months ago. And some dealerships are running radio ads announcing massive discounts and clearance events on trucks they once treated like scarce commodities. Ford cut F-150 production at multiple plants, and GM idled shifts at Flint Assembly, and Ram is offering employee pricing to anyone who walks through the door. And they built these trucks expecting buyers who don't exist anymore because the industry made a bet that Americans would keep paying anything for a pickup truck, and that brand loyalty would override basic math, and that ego and status would beat the calculator. The dealers are now stuck with the result of their own greed, where truck repossessions are climbing fast year over year, and Manheim auction data shows lanes filling with late-model pickups at numbers the industry hasn't seen in over a decade, which means thousands of working people are losing trucks they couldn't afford to keep, while the dealers who sold them anyway, and the banks who approved the loans anyway, are watching those same trucks show up at auction, selling for half what was owed. If you bought a new truck in the last 2 years, the math is probably broken where the truck you paid for is worth significantly less than what you owe, and the engine is likely on borrowed time, and the factory warranty expires at 60,000 miles or 5 years, right when the expensive failures start happening. The options are limited to keep paying or dump it and eat the negative equity, or pray the engine holds. And none of these are good options, because they were all manufactured by an industry that knew exactly what it was doing. The 2026 pickup market isn't a market anymore, but a graveyard, where the dealers know and the manufacturers know, and the auto journalists who depend on free press vehicles know too. But they won't tell you because their next loaner truck depends on staying quiet. The working guys figured this out years ago, and they're driving trucks from the early 2000s that they paid cash for, and they sleep at night while everyone who bought new in the last 2 years is watching their equity evaporate and their engine tick and their resale value crater. The weekend warriors, who the industry designed these trucks for, are finally doing the math and realizing they paid $80,000 for a vehicle that will be worth $40,000 in 3 years, while still owing $65,000 on a loan that won't be paid off for another 4 years, and the engine might not even make it that long. The dealers who marked up trucks during the pandemic and laughed at customers who couldn't afford the payment are now sitting on 200 days of inventory and offering discounts that would have been unthinkable 24 months ago. And the manufacturers who bet everything on Americans paying luxury prices for pickup trucks are cutting production and idling plants and watching their most profitable segment collapse in real time. The $80,000 truck era isn't ending because anyone in Detroit decided to stop, but because the customers finally stopped showing up, and the discount that wasn't there last year will be there next quarter, where the truck that costs $80,000 today will be $65,000 by spring, and the engine inside it still won't be worth what they're asking for it, even at the discounted price. The contractors and farmers who built this market walked away first because they run actual businesses where trucks are tools and not toys, and they understand math because their livelihoods depend on it, and they can't afford to drive a depreciating asset that might grenade its engine before the warranty expires, and everyone else is finally catching up to what those guys figured out years ago when they started buying used and paying cash. The industry made a bet that brand loyalty would beat the calculator, and that Americans would keep paying anything forever because trucks are part of the culture and part of the identity and part of how people see themselves. And they were wrong. And now they're sitting on a year's worth of inventory. They can't sell while cutting 50,000 jobs across the sector and closing factories and idling production lines and pretending they didn't see this coming, even though the working people who actually use trucks saw it years ago. The working people saw it coming, which is why they're driving 2018 Tundras with 200,000 miles that they paid $22,000 cash for, and they're not coming back to the new truck market no matter how big the discount gets, or how desperate the salesmen sound on the phone, because the math is still broken, and the engines still fail, and the depreciation still eats half the value before the loan is halfway done, and they've already moved on to a different game entirely, while the industry is still trying to figure out why the old rules stopped working. What do you think? Drop your answer in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.